Thank you for watching or listening to this free podcast of the Young Turks. We want to make sure that you get some portion of the show every day, but if you want the full show, which is actually 5 segments, come become a member and support independent media as well. tytnetwork.com/join. Meanwhile, enjoy the free podcast. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me read a couple of quick tweets for you guys, or actually their YouTube super chats. David Nomak says, I wish I could be on the Team Cenk as far as optimism goes, but I just don't see it. Therefore, I'm on Team Anna, I remain. David Hold, a little bit later in this segment, I'm going to tell you something new that we're going to do that I think could have a good effect. And then look, Just Democrats was the first to support Brent Welder, and then PCCC came in, Our Revolution came in, now Bernie Sanders has come in. Start a movement and see what happens, okay? And you get momentum. And by the way, a lot of Just Democrats have already won their primaries. Dwayne Bramble says, TYT, that's just one example, by the way. There's a Wolfpack election that's going on right now in Maryland as well. Tuesday is going to be a huge night. Ben Jealous is up for governor in Maryland. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez against Joe Crowley in New York. They're having a debate tonight. We're going to stream it on TYT Politics. I'll get back into that more later. So there's a lot of ways that we can help. Dwayne Bramble says, TYT bless up. I'll put my money where my mouth is for me and hope others would too. Thank you, Dwayne. We appreciate it. Stabby666 says, hey, since Trumpansies are such gullible dimwits, why doesn't the orange crap-filled boil-in-chief just tell them he's already built the wall and save everyone a load of time, sanity, and money? Now, that is a unique idea that I have to confess that I did not think of. If Trump just said, yeah, I built the wall and Mexico paid for it, they'll probably believe him. And then we'll be done with it and just move on with our lives. And it'll be the same fence in some parts that already exist and that Hillary Clinton was in favor of. And he'll say, oh, it's a big, beautiful wall, and it's also see-through. I made it even better. They'll believe him, and then we all get to save a lot of money. All right, Rosen's Dragon 2140 says something until my iPad started doing crazy stuff. Okay, sorry, here we go. They got to stop with these alerts. Okay, says, can other countries sue the US for separating families like this? We're basically stealing children, their citizens, by holding them here and sending their parents back? It's an interesting question. I don't know, but it would be fascinating if that happened. Okay, I want to also let you guys know about our audio podcasting network, tyt.com/audio. Jimmy Dore show is on there. So look, we're the home of the progressives. We got Nina Turner, we got Jimmy Dore, we got Young Turks, we got Anna Kasparian's show, Teray, and the list goes on and on and on. So make sure that you're checking out the podcasting at tyt.com/audio and find the hosts and the shows that you love and get in the game. Thank you guys. All right, let's go over here and I want to give you a story we did. All right, this is a story that TYT Investigates discovered. It's brought to you by Ken Klippenstein. It's a small little story. It's about the immigration situation, but this one is not about kids, it's about dogs. But the comparison is uncomfortable. So let me go to the story. Instead of space blankets, dogs, and of course you remember the kids that are being separated from their family or the ones that came in unaccompanied are getting some space blankets and sleeping on the floor, some of them are. So Ken explains, instead of space blankets, dogs in the custody of Customs and Border Protection, a division of Department of Homeland Security, will be treated to, quote, plush, double-sided sheepskin bedding at the Peninsula Pet Resort in California. Sounds lovely, according to federal procurement records reviewed by TYT. So, more details on how the dogs are treated as opposed to humans. The dogs will sleep indoors in the resort's 177 separate doggy suites, which feature frequent maid service and clean bedding every day, as well as raised kennel decking, according to Peninsula Pet Resort's website. Now, am I happy that the dogs are being treated well? Great. But God, I wish we treated the kids as well. So now more from the website of this company that's taking care of the dogs for Customs and Borders Protection. They declare on their website, quote, most importantly, we provide loving care. Now, Again, normal, I get it, I understand it, I'm glad that they're treating the dogs well. But it is a stark juxtaposition to the stories we hear about how the children are not allowed to be held by anyone. So if they are crying, they cannot console them. And their parents are not there, those are adults, and I understand why they have that rule. But they do not get loving care. There's a report that we broke of American Airlines flight attendants saying that the people transporting the kids would not allow them to eat the food while the people doing the transporting ate the food right next to them. They wouldn't allow them to watch the entertainment. They wouldn't allow them to interact with anyone or to look anyone in the eye. So the dogs get loving care, but the humans not so much. So as Klippenstein points out, by contrast, CBP reportedly has made undocumented detainees sleep in freezing cold cells on concrete floors without mats. President Trump has referred to undocumented immigrants as, quote, animals. And then finally, the one that really actually got to me was this part. Another advantage that the dogs may have over detained children is outdoor playtime. Although detention centers reportedly permit children to play outside for 2 hours each day, Peninsula Pet Resort allows its guests, which are dogs, up to 4 hours of outdoor playtime daily. The kids are not supposed to be prisoners, and they're not animals. Let them outside. 2 hours outside, there's no reason for it. I get it that you can't let them leave. I understand that. But and it's not a matter of whether we allow them to stay in the country or not. The question is, how humanely do we treat them when they're in the country temporarily? Yes, we can allow them to go outside within confined area for more than 2 hours a day. We can let the dogs do it. Why can't we let the kids do it? Oh man, it's heartbreaking that we're treating some animals better than we treat those kids in those detention centers. You know, a lot of times there's talk about how when authoritarian governments go to dehumanize people, they compare them to animals, which Trump did. They talk about how they carry disease and they infest a country, and Trump did all of those. But a lot of people in America love their dogs, of course, which is a great thing. And so they view the dogs as innocent. That's true, and that's a great thing. But we've got Republican congressmen on TV saying, well, are those really innocent kids? And were the parents really innocent? Maybe it's terrorists trying to smuggle in kids, or MS-13 trying to smuggle themselves in by having the kids, with no evidence at all. So the idea is they're guilty, they're guilty, they're guilty. So to them, maybe it does make more sense to treat the dogs more humanely than they treat actual human beings. They think, well, the dogs are innocent. I don't know about those 5-year-old kids though. It's gross. That's what we've sunk to. Okay, now let me go to Trump supporters' reactions instead, okay? So Donald Trump was having a rally last night. Nobody knows why he's doing the rallies because we're not in the middle of a campaign, certainly not for Trump, but I don't mind the rallies. I think presidents should do them more often. I think Obama should have made his case way more often. He was too reluctant to do that. Okay, so no problems there. So they want to interview some of his supporters. You're not going to be surprised to find out some of them were harsh, to say the least. Let's go to one of those right now.
God wants someone to please care for the children. Well, those children, if I get arrested, my kids aren't going to see me for a while either.
Mocking little kids who are crying. Or I guess he was mocking people who care about little kids. Okay. Well, at least we know what side you stand on. They're not pretending to have empathy. They're not pretending to care about other human beings. They're not pretending to care about the kids. In fact, they mock anyone who does care about the kids. Now, they're not the only ones. He claims that the progressives are crying. But even if that were true, they're certainly not the only ones because they found a Trump supporter who was crying. Why were they crying? She was so broken up about how Donald Trump is being mistreated. Watch.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Family means a lot to us, so we have to do it.
I see you getting emotional. Why is that?
Because he tries so hard, and so many people are so down on him.
Yeah, so many people are so down on him when he's working so hard. Working hard? He hardly works. When they asked him, hey, do you know anything about the Korean Peninsula before going into those peace negotiations? He's like, I don't have to know anything. I've been studying my whole life. I'm gonna know in the first minute. It's all about attitude. Work. He did this insane program where they take the kids away from the parents and they had no plan on how to reunite them. Right now, some of the parents are being deported and their kids are still in detention centers. He does no work at all. He's famous for not wanting to do any work. His own staffers tell the reporters that, hey, we had to bring all the briefings down to one page because he cannot read 4 pages. And even in the one page, we have to show him pictures and we have to keep putting Trump in there so that he'll pay attention. He works so hard. Are you kidding me? That's what you're broken up about? You're not broken up about the kids, but you're broken up about Donald Trump working so hard but not getting credit for it. Now, but it's not surprising because he can get his followers to believe anything. Later in this same rally, he's gonna say something that is unbelievable. He's gonna say it about the elites. Now, I want you to remember how he ran his campaign. He ran his campaign against the elites. In case you don't remember, here's Donald Trump during the campaign.
If we're going to deliver real change, we're going to have to reject the campaign of fear and intimidation being pursued by powerful corporations, media elites, and political dynasties. I want you to imagine how much better our future can be if we declare independence from the elites who led us from one financial and foreign policy disaster to another. Our friends in Britain recently voted to take back control of their economy, politics, and borders. I was on the right side of that issue, as you know, with the people. I was there. I said it was going to happen. I felt it. While Hillary, as always, stood with the elites, and both she and President Obama predicted that one, and many others, totally wrong.
So several times he attacks the elites. We need independence from the elites. Hilariously also attacked powerful corporations. Now all he ever does is serve powerful corporations. But hold, I'm gonna get back to that rally in a second. But I want you to remember that this was such an important theme for him that he even put it in his paid advertising. Listen to what he says about the elites in this ad.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. for those who control the levers of power in Washington, and for the global special interest. They partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry.
The establishment and the elite have bled us dry. He talked often about the global financial elite. Now, he turns around in the rally last night and says this.
You ever notice they always call the other side, and they do this on purpose, the elite. The elite. Why are they elite? I have a much better apartment than they do. I'm smarter than they are. I'm richer than they are. I became president and they didn't. And I'm representing the greatest, smartest, most loyal, best people on earth. The deplorables. Remember that? The deplorables.
He now turns around and says he's the elite. And the crowd roars. He ran the whole campaign against the establishment and the elite, and that's why you voted for him. And now you turn around like, yeah, he's more elite. He's more elite. He's got a better apartment. I'm rooting for the guy who's for the elites. What? What just happened? He's working so hard to take all my money and put it in his own pocket, but people won't give him credit. He just bragged about being in the elites, but he can get his followers to believe anything. So now, congratulations, MAGA guys. You're for the establishment and the elites. God, I hope you're proud. Suckers, through and through. Okay, now, how do we fight back? Well, that brings me to my next story. So online, we have a lot of lies and misinformation and fake news and trolls. So I've got an idea. How about we fight back? So how are we gonna do that? Well, we got a TYT army. We talk about it on the show from time to time. And you guys have gotten us so many great things, including a lot of the awards that we've won, etc. I thought, well, why not make it a little bit more formal? So we are going to start an army on the internet, and instead of spreading lies like the other side does, we're gonna do something radical. We're gonna spread the truth. So I'll give you an example so you know what I'm talking about, but we will do this dozens, if not hundreds of times, and I think it could make a giant difference, and you're gonna be a part of it. So today, for example, in the news, there's a story about immigration. And the Republicans have two proposals, both the more conservative one and the so-called moderate one, have proposals to eliminate the visa lottery and, very importantly, family-based immigration. Now, those are both legal forms of immigration, and the Republicans want to do away with them, including the Trump administration and Republicans in Congress. So oftentimes you'll hear in the mainstream media, well, I mean, Republicans are against illegal immigration. It's not based on race. It's not based on fear or hatred. No, they just want you to follow the law. But wait a minute, family-based immigration is the most common way of doing legal immigration. That is following the law. Don't care, we're against it. Well then, we have to tell the media, stop lying or covering up for Republicans and saying that they are for legal immigration when they are not. They just proposed bills saying they are against legal immigration. They're against immigrants, period. It's not my bill, it's their bill. So, for example, when the TYT army is ready, and that'll be very, very soon, we could then say to any reporter or any media organization or any politician that spreads that misinformation, here is the bill that we are referring to. You must retract what you're doing, or at least admit that you're not a real reporter, that you're spreading misinformation on purpose. Why? Well, I want to be neutral. I want to report the things that are true from time to time, and I'd like to also report the things that Republicans tell me to report, even if it isn't true. So, trolls versus Turks. They've got a lot of trolls. Well, we got a lot of people who believe in not just the show, but progressive ideas. Now, whenever we do anything, we're always going to keep it completely non-physical, non-violent. We're the good guys, and we spread things that are true, and we do it for the moment being on the internet. If we're going to do anything outside of that, it is going to be political protests. So if you want to be involved, army@tytnetwork.com. So I want you guys as involved in this show as humanly possible. And I've said this a million times on the air. We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks. So let's go get them. So you guys email in if you're interested in being part of that movement, and we will tell you from time to time what the missions are. And then we will go execute those missions. And then I will give you the results. So I think that I've seen this work before, and I've seen it work spectacularly on campaigns. And the media keeps saying, well, I don't know what progressive stars are. I don't know what the progressive position is. And all they ever get is whining from the Republicans, whining to the refs over and over again. And what do? They skew the news in their favor. Well, now we're going to fight back. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it in a civil way. But we are going to fight. And we're going to do it with information and facts and knowledge. Be part of the team. I guarantee you it'll be fun. Look,
at TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
We did this a long time ago, and we did it to get our message out, and it helped to get on MSNBC. That's how I got the job in the first place. If you don't remember that story, it's from now a long time ago, about 8 years ago. But the TYT Army back then demanded that I get the show, and that's what got me meetings at MSNBC. That's what got me on air at MSNBC. But let's go do that on progressive policy priorities and issues and things that matter. And yes, our voice is important. We're the home of progressives. Who else is fighting for progressives? What, MSNBC with Morning Joe doing Republican talking points for about 18 hours? Then you got the middle of the day where they do nothing on MSNBC, and you have a couple of primetime hosts that do Democratic talking points. They're not fighting for progressives. How many of their hosts are pro Bernie Sanders? They have people that are used to run our intelligence agencies that are deep parts of the establishment. So we've got Nina Turner doing a podcast here. We've got Teray doing a podcast. We got Jimmy Dore doing podcasts. We got him doing video. We got the Young Turks. We got Anna doing a show called No Filter. John doing Damage Report. We've got Kyle Kalinske. We got Sam Cedar. We got almost everyone of import on the progressive side right here at the Young Turks. But most importantly, we have you guys. So we're all gonna work together, and we are going to counter their propaganda, and we're gonna fight back. By the way, one more thing. If you've got tips for us, we've got an investigative reporting team. We wanna break stories, and we want your guys' help on that as well. So send us your tips at the Young Turks at protonmail.com, the Young Turks at protonmail.com. And when we break the stories, if you would like credit for it, we will give you credit as well, because we're gonna do this together. Wait till we unleash this thing. It's gonna be awesome. All right, one more story for you guys today. In this, we call it ours, so-called ours, in this segment, let's put it that way. And then John's gonna come in and we've got some more political stories from him as well. All right. This story is not about politics, unfortunately, it's another shooting. So another day in America, and unfortunately, another young African-American male who was unarmed, shot and killed. This time it's a 17-year-old boy. His name is Antoine Rose. This was in East Pittsburgh, and he was shot 3 times in the back. So I'm gonna show you a video of it. It is, of course, as usual, disturbing. It's a bystander that is recording it. Now, let me give you context before I show you the video. The cops were called in connection to an earlier shooting that happened on North Braddock, Pennsylvania. They are responding to it. They believe that the car matches the description that was given. They stop the car and they take the driver and they are detaining him. I'm gonna tell you what happened to the driver later. The 2 kids in the car bolt and they decide to run. Now that's a bad idea because as we've seen, unfortunately, in this country, they will shoot you in the back. And I don't know why the 17-year-old panicked and ran, but given what we've seen happen to African Americans across the country, I'm not that surprised that they did panic when they saw cops. But here's what happened next.
Why are they shooting at him? No, I'm recording this. Why are they shooting? All they did was run and they're shooting at them.
He died. Don't shoot him in the back. Don't shoot him in the back. And I guarantee you there will be a ton of people and eventually police and eventually probably prosecutors, and if not prosecutors, the judicial system overall that will say, yeah, he should have shot him in the back. That's what happens in almost every case. Rose, according to Allegheny County Police Superintendent Coleman McDonough, was not armed. He said that at a press conference on Wednesday afternoon. That's the police superintendent. He was not armed. So police say they think that the car is still probably the car that was involved in the incident. They say they thought it had bullet holes when they pulled it over. And they say that they recovered 2 guns from the car. So I don't know what happened, but that's why you do investigations, not shootings. He didn't have the gun, and they didn't ask. They didn't say stop. They didn't chase him. It's not like it was dark and they couldn't tell what was happening and they were afraid for their life. No, they saw what was happening. They saw him running away. You just saw it for the video. I had to keep telling you what you just saw with your own eyes because I guarantee you that the system will deny what you just saw with your own eyes. They'll say, well, I mean, come on, there was a shooting somewhere, there was guns somewhere. What are you gonna do, stop and actually try to catch the kid? No, I was generally afraid. Maybe he does something later. Why not just execute him? Because that's what they did. The 20-year-old driver of the vehicle, as HuffPost reports, that Rose allegedly fled, was taken into custody. He was later released because officers did not feel they had cause to charge him in the North Braddock shooting. So if you're in the camp of, well, I mean, hey, listen, they thought that that was the car, and and there's clear evidence that these were the guilty kids. Really, they didn't charge the driver. They let him go. They said there isn't evidence on him. Oops. So how about Antoine Rose? Now, because after literal assassinations, police often, or authorities often, turn to character assassinations. In this case, Antoine Rose was, quote, an excellent student. That's according to the school superintendent. That's not his parents, that's not his friends, that's Al Johnson, the school superintendent. He took AP classes, advanced placement classes. Great student. God, that's heartbreaking. Antoine Rose is dead. They shot him in the back. I have no idea if we'll ever receive justice. Young Turks. you're right in the middle of this podcast. We got another great segment coming up for you. If you'd like the full show, which is actually 5 segments, go to tytnetwork.com/join. You become a member, you support the show, you support independent media, and you get the whole 2-hour show ad-free every day. Let's go do it now. All right, welcome back to the Young Turks. Cenk and John with you guys right now. I talked about how we're going to do a lot of things together going forward. A lot of you wrote about it. I'm going to get to those comments in a second. But as it turns out, it is Member Appreciation Week at the Young Turks.
Oh, what do you know?
Okay.
I thought that was every week.
I know, right? It's like the Anderson Cooper segment, keeping them honest. Anyway.
On the damage report, we have a segment, I'll stop lying for a bit.
That's really funny. All right, so tyt.com/notice for members to get these member-only t-shirts. And you can get more information about that. And of course, tyt.com/join to become a member. I like the member hats. I like the member shirts.
That shirt is cool.
Yeah, and when I go to meetups and I see people with member shirts or the shirts that we did when we did fundraising for the studio and other places, and for the reporters and etc. I love that because I know that they were they're the Young Turks. So thank you guys, and we're trying to appreciate you. Okay, now let me give you guys some of those comments that I was telling you about. Elliot writes in on YouTube Super Chat, Trump didn't really reverse his family separation policy. He just bought himself 20 days to properly pin it on Democrats. Well, we'll see what he does in 20 days, but you're right that 20 days is relevant in this. And as I told you, and John's got some more stories about the immigration, there are a lot of disturbing elements to this, and we are nowhere near out of the woods, okay? Then let me go to Ted Flores. He says, we need independent journalism. Thanks, TYT. Thank you, Ted. We appreciate it. J3SZY527, that's a lot of letters, but he says, I believe this network is performing a very necessary and critical public service. Thank you. And like I said, we can do it all together, and we will. We'll fight back together through the TYT Army. And Martin Madrigal writes in on YouTube Super Chat, just saying, go TYT Army. And Martin, I appreciate it. And one from Twitter, Eclectic Melania says, now that TYT Army is going to get missions, it's time for Cenk to learn the correct theme for Mission Impossible.
That's not going to happen.
Well, funny. Funny you mentioned that because that was a big part of our discussion last night on Old School. It was me, John, and Anna, and these are some really fun shows for the members. So check that one out, tyt.com/join to get Old School, and we went over the music for Mission Impossible versus James Bond. What I get wrong, what I get right.
I'm still not clear on the distinction, but
yeah. Da-na-na-na, that's James Bond.
That's James Bond.
Okay. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, that's still James Bond.
No, I think that's, I don't know. Okay. I don't watch Mission Impossible, I don't know.
Go watch the Old School from last night.
Okay.
All right, John, what do you got?
Okay, well, we've got a lot. Why don't we start talking about it? If you didn't think that the situation at the border could get any worse than stealing kids from their parents and throwing them in camps, you were wrong. Actually, every day, multiple times per day, more and more information is coming out about how these kids are actually treated once they're placed in facilities, whether in Texas or once they're flown to various states around the country. And there's a lot that we could focus on, and we're choosing to focus on the experience of kids at one particular facility in Houston. That is the Shiloh Treatment Center, where they're being forcibly medicated in pretty horrific ways. So children held there, that's a government contractor south of Houston. Kids were described as being held down and injected with drugs. The lawsuit alleges that children were told they would not be released or see their parents unless they took medication, and that they were only there, that they were only going to be receiving vitamins, which of course is not the case. Now, thankfully, there have been professionals, both medical and legal professionals, who've been investigating this and talking with the kids, talking with their parents as well, which is why we're finding out so much. Parents and the children themselves told attorneys that the drugs rendered them unable to walk, afraid of people, and wanting to sleep constantly. One mother said her child fell repeatedly, hitting her head, and ended up in a wheelchair. A child described trying to open a window and being hurled against a door by a Shiloh supervisor, who then choked her until she fainted. The kid said, the supervisor told me I was going to get a medication injection to calm me down. 2 staff grabbed me, and the doctor gave me the injection despite my objection, and left me there on the bed. There's a lot more, but that initial pass it's pretty dark.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, this has been going on for quite some time. I think that the recent stories about the tragedies of the kids being separated from their parents is now putting a light on all the things that we are now doing now and have been doing for quite some time. So I know that because there's a lawsuit all the way back in 2008 where they testified about this, and one of the experts who testified about it, psychiatrist Mark J. Mills, said this is like what the old Soviet Union used to do. He said they're giving him antipsychotic drugs. He said you only are supposed to do that if someone is in such a bad state they're nearly trying to rip their own eyeballs out. Like they have to be in horrific situation for you to give these very strong drugs to them.
Yeah.
And in this case, they don't. It's kind of a pain to take care of the kids and make sure they don't act up because they're kids. Let's just load them up with antipsychotic drugs so they don't do anything and they just mellow out in the corner. That's terrible, terrible.
Yeah, I mean these facilities are led by private contractors. They're effectively private prisons, and the people who run them and the people who staff them act the same way that those who run private prisons do. And so at this particular facility, I mean they're going to have kids who've been separated, but this particular place has had problems for years, as we're going to describe. People have tried to shut it down in the past, and as you know, I mean this has been going on for a while before Donald Trump was president. It's been protected largely by Republicans ever since, but you have to provide that context that the crisis we're experiencing right now is different. It's unique from past experiences, but past experiences do matter. Nothing enrages me more than people who attempt to diffuse actual concern and activism over this by doing just endless whataboutism, and then what are you supposed to do? They don't actually care about stopping Trump, they just talk about Obama. But this stuff was happening under Obama and previous presidents as well. So I want to tell you a little bit more about some of these kids' experiences. Another child recounted being made to take pills in the morning, at noon, and night. The child said the staff told me that some of the pills are vitamins because they think I need to gain weight. The vitamins changed about 2 times, and each time I feel different. God only knows what the pills actually were. We don't honestly know. Now I want to provide a little bit more contextual information about this facility. Shiloh is among 71 companies that receive funds from the federal government to house and supervise immigrant children deemed unaccompanied minors. An investigation by Reveal from the Center for Investigative Reporting found that nearly half of the $3.4 billion paid to those companies in the last 4 years went to homes with serious allegations of mistreating children. In nearly all of the cases reviewed by Reveal, the federal government continued contracts with the companies after serious allegations were raised. And those allegations include things like mistreatment, but also physical abuse, sexual abuse, and things of that sort. As we said, there have been attempts to shut down this particular facility we're focusing on in the past. Back in December of 2014, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, a Democrat of Houston, called for Shiloh to be shut down, citing reports from the Houston Chronicle of, quote, physical violence, unreasonable and excessive use of physical restraints, administering emergency medications without notice to governmental authorities, and several deaths of minor children while in custody. Unfortunately, it was not shut down at that point. And there's been quite a bit of reporting actually from TYT Investigates about how these particular facilities do quite well and get protected because they are major campaign donors to Republicans in Texas. And those Republicans then have their backs. And I want to talk about the total amount of money they've gotten. The US Department of Health and Human Services continued sending children and funds to Shiloh, a total of more than $19 million after Sheila Jackson Lee called for it to be shut down. And it's ramping up. In fact, just last year, it collected $5.6 million.
So I want to be clear, TYT Investigates did a different report about the funding of these type of organizations. Yes. The independent reporting that we're relying on for this story comes from Public Radio and revealnews.org. And obviously there's lawsuits here and they will adjudicate those, and they've been in the past. And there are, as John pointed out, US Congress people that are looking into this as well. Here's what I know: don't give antipsychotic drugs to kids that we're supposed to be taking care of, that are not supposed to be in prison. That's important why the government should do it, because if you privatize things like this, what will naturally happen? people will want to make a profit, right? I mean, everybody agrees to that. Now, how are you going to make a profit if things go smoother? At a company, you want things to go smooth, that makes sense. But if you're taking care of kids, well, they're human beings, and they're kids. Kids sometimes act up. Well, how are you going to make things go smoother and reduce your costs? Just load them up with drugs, and then they'll veg out on the corner. One kid was prescribed 10 different shots and pills with so many different names I can't begin to pronounce them all and explain it. Some say that some kids got up to 18 different shots and pills. So we should not be drugging up these poor kids. We shouldn't have done it in the past. We shouldn't be doing it now. We have to be a responsible steward for these kids while they're in the country. If you think, hey, don't cross the border illegally, and you want to send them back, I understand that. But while they're here, they're humans, and we are supposed to be the shining city on a hill, and we're supposed to give them humane, decent treatment, especially the kids, no matter what happens with them, no matter whether they stay here or we deport them. For the time that they are here, we're not supposed to make a buck off of them and drug them up so that it's a little easier for us to take care of them.
Yeah, and the answer is extremely simple, and it's the answer we give for almost everything. If you had public financing of campaigns, these companies would not be able to buy off politicians. They would not then be protected after abusing children, and they would have long ago been shut down, as they should be.
But that's not what we have. We have private financing, so our politicians work for private interests.
Yes. Related topic?
Yes.
Okay. The first lady took a trip down to the border to see what was really truly happening there. She said something of that sort because apparently the reporting and the activism and the concern was all false. And she went there and she wore clothes, and her clothes were weird. And so let's bring up this picture. She has a coat on, and they identified the coat. It's a Zara coat that says, "I really don't care. Do you?" And I guess I do care because I'm angry at the entire thing. I don't like anything about this whole situation because as it was happening, we knew exactly how it was going to play out. We naturally, as people who are concerned about these kids and what's going on down there, think that seems like kind of an odd thing to wear when you're going down to see. She didn't actually see the kids that had been separated from their families. She went to a place that did unaccompanied minors. But still, it seems like maybe you want to show some actual compassion on your compassion trip. But we also know that she didn't accidentally wear that coat. We have another picture, by the way, that you can see it a little bit closer. She didn't accidentally wear it. She's a Trump. And whether she intended to or if they're just going to use it, it's going to become some big thing. And so her spokeswoman put out a comment saying it's a jacket. There was no hidden message.
Well, no, to be fair, John, it wasn't hidden at all.
That's true. It was on her back. It wasn't in the lining. It wasn't like screw immigrants. It was on the back. And so you see that, and then they begin the hashtag. It's just a jacket. Okay, but she put it on. And obviously, she did it on purpose. Whatever that purpose is, and I don't really even care what the purpose is, but she did it on purpose. And then we knew, obviously, they're gonna try to make it into a conversation about the media so that Donald Trump can weigh in, because he then tweeted this: "I really don't care, do you?" written on the back of Melania's jacket, refers to the fake news media. Melania has learned how dishonest they are, and she truly no longer cares. Which is BS on top of BS on top of BS. It's BS from floor to ceiling. First of all, her spokeswoman said there was no hidden message. Now you're saying there was a hidden message. And the message,
great point.
And the message is that she doesn't care about the media, which I buy, because when I really don't care about something, I make my clothing choices based on that thing. I just am so mad about this whole thing, and my reaction, what I want to happen has nothing to do specifically with jackets. And it just has to do with my mental health. Get them out of the White House, get them out of the White House, get them out of the White House. This is insanity. And I understand some people want to just pretend that none of this is happening. Donald Trump isn't president. We can go 4 years without ever talking about him, without ever criticizing him, and eventually something miraculous will happen, or whatever. And in the meantime, just talk about the issues. Don't get dragged into this stuff. But the thing is, when truth is dead and nothing matters, you can't just talk about the issues because nobody agrees on any of the facts. And it all turns into gigantic, disingenuous back and forths and all of that. We can't have the sort of policy-based discussions we want to have because they have killed the ability of the American voter to understand or agree on any of the base level information that goes into those discussions.
So from time to time, the right wing would criticize what Democratic women wear. Maybe most famously, sure, Hillary Clinton as well, but Michelle Obama, when she would wear sleeveless shirts, they'd say, how dare she? That is unbecoming of a first lady. Now that was a question about their fashion choices. Who cares? They also criticized Obama when he wore a tan suit. Why do you care? In this case, it's not like I don't like the color of her jacket or the fit of her jacket. I couldn't give a rat's ass about her jacket. It has a literal message on it as she's going to pretend to care about immigrant kids. She says, now don't mistake me. I'm going to be super clear about this because I'm going to put it on the back of my jacket. I really don't care. Do you? Of all the trips to put that message on, you were, I mean, if you say she didn't mean it, the only thing I can imagine is that maybe English is a second language for her. She just doesn't know English. Because it's not complicated. It doesn't have big words, SAT words on it.
You could fit a tweet.
I really don't care. Do you? I mean, she knows enough English to know what that means, right? I don't know. There's some chance that she actually came into the country illegally. Now the Trump administration is talking about how they're going to maybe denaturalize some naturalized citizens. I'd love to look into Melania Trump's records because there's good reporting on how she might have not been truthful about her visas before she was naturalized. I don't know, could she speak English when she became a citizen? I don't think she has to, but I do know that if she speaks English, she knows the giant message on her back as she's going on a trip pretending to care about the kids.
Yeah.
So, for one more time, imagine if Michelle Obama was going to a trip where she was going to look at kids, whether they were separated from their parents, or they were immigrants, or they were the kids of veterans, or kids at a church, kids at a school, and she was going to show how much she cared. And she wore a jacket that said, I really don't care. Imagine what the right wing would have done. Oh, what a heartless, angry black woman. I can't believe she said that about the kids. Then why did you even go? They would have ripped her to shreds.
Honestly, we probably don't have to guess because every single criticism of Donald Trump ends up being a conversation about Barack Obama and the Obamas anyway. We'll probably get that conversation.
Look, I don't know what's in Melania's mind, let alone heart. I don't like that kind of, what's in her heart? She married Donald Trump. I guess Donald Trump's in her heart. Ugh. Okay, and she's a first lady, and if she stayed out of things, no problem. Laura Bush didn't like to do politics. She actually came in, said one thing about politics in my whole life, and it was like, hey, please don't take the kids away from their parents. God bless, she's a Republican first lady, excellent, no problem at all, okay? But if you're gonna enter politics and you're gonna pretend to care, then don't wear a giant sign on your back that says, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's the least we could ask of you.
Want to take a break?
Yes.
Because my 3 favorite stories of the day are coming up. 3
favorite stories of the day coming up. Go. Thanks for watching or listening to this free version of the Young Turks podcast. You know that the full show is at tytnetwork.com/join. If you become a member, you get the full show ad-free. We love you for watching or listening. Either way, there's going to be a new free podcast tomorrow. You can keep on doing that. But if you want to get the full show ad-free, tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.